What's going on, everybody? Grayson Roze here, Chief Strategist at StockCharts.com. Back in the studio in a very sunny, very warm, very beautiful Redmond, Washington. As always, delighted to be with you for another weekly episode. This one's going to be fun. We're going to take a look at an indicator that I have not seen anywhere else. It exists on the StockCharts platform, a little known indicator that I want to make sure you're aware of because it fits with the context of what's happening in the markets right now. We have a market that has been crazy this year, right? We hit all-time highs up at the start of the year, but now we've had this massive sell-off. We've had a massive bounce. But what we've ended up with, especially right now, is a market that realistically is just kind of drifting sideways. Now, if you step back, you zoom out a little bit, that becomes clear. But these are the markets that become incredibly difficult for people to kind of wrap their heads around. What is happening? We've got heightened volatility. We've got huge down days. We've got huge up days. Markets sold off, markets rallied. Where are we going and what's happening and what am I supposed to do with it? Right? That's the question that a lot of people start asking themselves at a time like this. What am I supposed to do with this market and how am I supposed to think about it? Well, the indicator that I want to talk through today is called our traffic light indicator. And it really helps simplify the picture of the market that you're looking at. We're going to do this with the S&P 500, but I also want to jump over to a quick chart of an individual stock to talk about how you can use this in some other symbols as well. Really helpful way of kind of simplifying, streamlining, just getting back to basics when you start to think about what a market is doing, what an index is doing, what a stock is doing even. So let's jump over to ACP, which is our advanced charting platform. That's where this indicator exists. We'll pull it up, show you how to use this, and show you how I'm specifically using this on the S&P 500 right now. All right, guys, so we are here in ACP. This is our advanced charting platform. I always love to do this. Zoom out, show you how quickly and easily you can move through time on this chart. Back and forth, you can zoom in, you can zoom out. So much power right at your fingertips here with ACP. Now, I'm specifically going to pull up a very simple chart of the S&P 500. This takes off all the indicators. It takes off RSI and all the other stuff that I like to look at typically. All it leaves here are some candlesticks and a couple of moving averages. We've got the 50 in red. We've got the 100. You can barely see it's that little dashed line. And we've got the 200-day as well. Now, when I look at this chart of the S&P 500, right, we've got our highs. We sold off. We've bounced. But this is a market that realistically, when you're using, this little feature here that shows you the last price reference line, this shows you how sideways this market has been, really going all the way back to June of or July of 2024. So this is a sideways market. When it comes down to it, ultimately what we're doing right now is moving sideways. We're moving sideways within a pretty crazy range, but that's kind of the key with this tool that we're going to take a look at today. So simple chart. I'm going to go over here to the left side of the screen. And now this is one that I have actually favorited. So it shows up here at the top in my favorites list. But if you scroll down here under standard indicators, you will see a traffic light indicator. By the way, if you do want to favorite any of these indicators in ACP, simply hit the star and that'll show up right at the top of the list for you. So the traffic light, designed to literally look like a traffic light. We saw people for years that were doing this, myself included, that were using rectangles colored on the screen to actually kind of draw these levels. And the idea is really simple. When you have a market like this that is absolutely chaotic and confusing, but then kind of ends up just sort of going sideways, you want to think about it in these sort of three very simple, technical analysis 101 type of cases. The market's either in a good spot, it's a green light, it's a go, everything is fine. It's in a bad spot, bad shape. It's in the red zone. It's a total stopped out, don't move forward kind of thing. Or it's in this kind of neutral zone, right? It's chopping around somewhere in between. The stoplight indicator, the traffic light indicator, is intended to help you kind of paint that on your charts really quickly and really easily. Make you think about those three cases: good, bad, neutral. It puts it right there in front of you and makes you sort of identify those levels and then think about the market in those cases. Now, right now, I want to show you guys why I think that the market is just totally in the middle of the neutral zone, just chopping around, moving sideways, kind of doing nothing. Does that mean that you should just ignore it and move on? No, but it does frame the way that you're thinking about the markets, especially when we see some of these big up days and big down days. Well, if they're just chopping around in the middle of the neutral zone, it kind of frames the way that you're feeling about the market, the way that you're interpreting those different moves. So when you open up a simple chart like this, and you've got that traffic light indicator added to your chart, it actually becomes very, very interactive. You can click on any of these boxes. The key things that you want to set these two thresholds, your upper threshold and your lower threshold. Everything above the upper threshold is going to be colored green. Everything below the lower threshold is going to be colored red. And everything in between is going to be colored yellow, just like a stoplight. Now, you can actually change those if you really, really want to. I like to leave them red, yellow, and green, though. So you're going to set those thresholds to kind of draw these lines on your chart. So when you click into, for instance, the upper threshold box, you can now click anywhere on this chart to move that threshold around. Now, if you do have a specific level in mind, you can type it into the box. In my case, though, I don't really want to type in anything on a box. I just want to click on the chart and set that right at the level that matters to me. So as I look at this chart, I would say that about the 5880 level is going to be really, really important. The 5880 level is the highs from October of last year, and then actually became support kind of within a range at the end of 2024 and at the beginning of 2025. We lost that in the start of the sell-off here at 2025. So that, to me, is a really clear level where the market was sort of testing that 5880 level or somewhere around that pretty consistently. Multiple tests of that. That was really resistance turned support, and then we broke that, and that was kind of the big trigger to accelerate the sell-off to the downside. So to me, the upper threshold here is about the 5880 level. Now, the lower threshold, we click into that lower threshold box. Again, we can move that level anywhere that we want. You could do a really, really low threshold like this and say, oh, yeah, I'm going to draw it all the way down there. For me, I'm going to say the 5,500 level. I've been talking about the 5,500 level quite a lot. I've been tweeting about it and telling you guys about it. So I'm going to say the 5,500 level. I'm doing this kind of over there on the right. The 5,500 level, though, is really interesting because, again, it gives us some resistance from back here in kind of June of 2024. We chopped around that quite a bit, and I could say maybe it's more like the 5,600 level, but I'm putting it a little bit lower because that 5,500 level became really, really, really important in March. We had the initial sell-off, and we bounced right off of that thing, and then when we sold off really, really hard, that 5,500 level came back into play. Again, the sort of the start of the massive sell-off that we saw took us right down below that. That was pretty huge. And then when we tried to rally back initially, we couldn't make it above that 5,500 level. So it became incredibly important. And in recent sessions, recent weeks, again, kind of served as a little bit of resistance on the very, very near term. So that 5,500 level is incredibly important to me. I think the charts have been screaming about that for a while. Now that I've painted that on this chart, that's the stoplight that I'm kind of watching. And what I end up with are these three zones. I've got my bullish zone, I've got my bearish zone, and I've got my neutral zone. Now I can sit back, I can study this, and I can just say, wow, if the market is chopping around between the red and the green there, if the market's just chopping around in the neutral zone, we're just in neutral territory. We're in kind of, snooze you lose type of territory. Nothing much happening. When we get above that level, when we get back above kind of that 5880 level, we start to get into the upper threshold of my stoplight. Makes it really, really clear and easy for me to see, hey, these are the levels that I want to start to get more involved in, start to get a little bit more aggressive, maybe a little more risk on with my trading, different things like that. So being able to identify these levels and really paint that entire chart in these three simple kind of TA 101 type of ranges, incredibly helpful. I find that the visual of this is very, very powerful. This is the traffic light indicator again in ACP. It makes it very easy to paint these levels right on your chart. Sit back and think about the markets in this kind of three case way. We so much of what we do, so much of what we hear is all about making markets more and more and more complex. But realistically, when you think about markets in these kind of three cases, going up, going down, or going sideways, the traffic light indicator really pairs well with that and simplifies your view of the markets. Now, I mentioned I wanted to pull up an individual stock, tell you how you can use this on an individual name as well. To me, Amazon is actually a really, really good example right now. By the way, when you switch symbols with this traffic light indicator, it's going to kind of reset. So every time you use this, you do have to go in and set those levels, which makes sense because they're not going to translate from one stock to the next. You got to reset them to be sort of on a case-by-case basis to make sense for the name that you're looking at. Now, when I zoom back out, let's do a 1.5-year range again. We'll do a 1.5-year range here on Amazon. When I think about Amazon, I think about a stock that's in a ultra long-term uptrend, but has really been chopping around here for quite a while, kind of similar to the market. This is the type of name that, again, becomes kind of traffic lighty to me. So I'm going to paint my upper threshold here, and I'm going to do that right up around those summer highs from last year that Amazon was putting in. Again, resistance kind of became support, then also almost briefly became support, then lost that. There's a lot of price levels to work through there from those highs. I'm going to paint my lower threshold pretty close to actually where it is right now. I'm going to move it up just a little bit. Now maybe move it up a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. That's where I'm going to paint my lower threshold. Now, when I zoom out and I think about Amazon, again, this might be a name that you're interested in trading or investing in over the long term. But right now, when you paint that traffic light, it makes it really clear to see Amazon's in neutral territory. Amazon is drifting sideways ultimately. Now, it did test some of that kind of bearish territory down there in the red zone of my traffic light that I'm painting on this. But right now, I'd say that Amazon is back in that neutral zone, just kind of drifting sideways. So it makes it very, very easy to see this. Kind of the typical things that we like to think about doing with a name. Again, that traffic light makes it very, very obvious, painting those different zones right there on that chart. So you can use this for indexes. You can use this for individual names, tons and tons of different ways that you can use this tool. It's not just about market analysis. I'd say this is also a great way to think about maybe positions that you have on in your own portfolio or other individual names from your watch list, ETFs that you're following. Whatever it is, you can use this traffic light indicator to really kind of simplify your analysis. Boil it down to those three cases. Again, good stuff, bad stuff, somewhere in between in the neutral zone. Green, yellow, red. Like the way I like the way we think about it there with those three simple cases. So a quick highlight of an indicator here on the StockCharts platform. Wanted to make sure you're aware of. Kind of a buried indicator, one we don't talk about too often, but especially for right now with this market that's just throwing us all for a loop and ultimately is just kind of in this neutral chop zone. I think this is a very, very timely, relevant, good indicator to be using right now to help maybe calm yourself down, right? It's easy to get wrapped up in the day-to-day movements of the markets and think, oh my gosh, it's crazy, it's up, it's down, it's everywhere, blah, blah. Wow, the stoplight indicator to me is about kind of zooming out, stepping back and saying, no, I'm going to paint these zones on my chart and I'm going to let it ride. If we're in the neutral zone, we're in the neutral zone. I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'll get more excited when we get up into the bullish zone. If we get down into the red zone, then I'll start to worry a little bit more. But right now, to me, we're clearly right in that neutral zone on the S&P 500. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Where are your zones? Maybe you're painting different levels than I am. What levels are you watching on the S&P 500? What other individual names are you using the traffic light indicator on? Leave us a comment down below. Anyways, I want to thank you for tuning in for this quick little highlight here on StockCharts TV. Remember, give this a like, give us a follow, a subscribe. We got so much great content, so much happening here on the StockCharts TV channel, also on the StockCharts website, stockcharts.com/articles as well. So tune in there, check out the articles. Check out the channel. We'll be back again soon with more great content. My name is Grayson Roze, Chief Strategist here at StockCharts.com. I'll see you again soon for another one. But until then, keep calm and chart on, my friends.